let me just first say it's an honor to be here again in your home. And it was in 2000, I believe it was late 2004, maybe 2005 when I interviewed you the first time. And then in 2006, we went to Iwo Jima together.
That's right.
So I'm here today just to kind of follow up with what I've done with you already, and knowing your story, and you introduced me to Iwo Jima, and just that whole, the Marine Corps tradition of what they've done in war. But I just wanted to thank you for being here, and for who you are and what you've done, and you blessed my life.
Well, you're part of my life.
I'm glad to be a part of your life.
Well, Larry, you are part of my life because of the man upstairs. And so...
Well, you know, what you shared today was very meaningful to me about the blessing. And but, you know, I've traveled many, many miles around North America and in Canada, with Canada and the United States, and I've met a lot of veterans, Keith, and...
Oh, I'm sure you have.
I tell you what's sad for me, though. People don't see or hear the personal side of my story, so I'm putting it together now in a final documentary called Capturing Courage on Camera, A Journey of Honor. And it's my story. It's a chance for me to tell my story about how I've told all of your stories over the years. And the most important thing that I'm doing now is going into schools. And I talk to young people about the history of our country and our veterans. And I challenge our young people with the thought, you're born in a free country. Do you ever think about why you're free? And that opens up a door for me to start talking about my work. And after a program, I'll have a veteran like yourself talk to the students. The kids start to cry. They come up and shake the hands of the veterans, and they're so grateful. And they thank me for teaching them that about freedom not being free. And so they understand the message. So all the stories I started 10 years ago hopefully will continue in our schools, because you tell me, do you think it's important that our young people learn about these stories?
Larry, I'll tell you a story. My daughter had to get a speaker for her high school in Highland High over here.
Okay.
And she had one the first year she was in, and then the second year she told the principal, I want to have my father come and talk to the kids. Mm-hmm. And the principal says, how old is your father? And she said, he's 90. And the principal just shook. He said, oh, people that are 90, all they do is say, well, I don't remember this, I don't remember that. And she says, well, my dad will hold their interest. And he says, oh, I don't think he can hold their interest. And she says, my dad will hold their interest. And so reluctantly, he let me come in. So I dressed up in my Marine Corps uniform. Mm-hmm. I couldn't button my collar, but with my wife's help, I was able to get me in there. Mm-hmm. And we went over to the Highland High School. And the first time I talked, they told me I could have 15 minutes, and they cut it down to 10. And there sits my wife, who is a brilliant cutter down to get the meat. And she gave me a 10-minute talk that was fabulous. And so I memorized it. So the first group I talked to was 350. And then we had a break, and the other veterans were up on the stage. Few of them were in uniform. And then I talked to another 300. Mm-hmm. And in what I told them, I says, during World War II, I was a Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant in F Company, 2nd Battalion, 25th Marines, 4th Marine Division. And I had a great deal of authority, more so than they have today. And I said, as a result, we have given you our blood, our lives for freedom. And it's up to you to keep that freedom. And what I tell you this, don't give your freedom away for some stupid thing like getting on drugs and alcohol and losing your freedom, where you lose control of your body. We give you this to keep and cherish all your life. And then I ended it, keep your freedom. And they gave me a standing ovation, and they clapped, both groups. And when I came down off the stage, the principal was waiting for me. And as he came down and he said, "Mr. Renstrom, we have people talk here that hit first base. And we have people that hit second base. And we have people that hit third base. But today, we had 2 home runs." Now, Larry, that's what I do for the schools. I talk, my wife has heard me talk many times. I take a lot of my stuff to the schools. I can't do it anymore now, but my sons come and help me. And I just gave a talk to a group of people here not so long ago, and they were just spellbound by the stories that I tell them. And now there was a man who came from a magazine, and I've been in 3 different magazines, and he asked me a question that nobody has ever asked me before. And in all my experience in World War II, what did I consider to be the most dramatic? Now, I thought about it, and I come and told Jody about it, and we talked about it. And then one night, as I was going to sleep, I thought, I don't have one dramatic experience. I have 4, and they're all totally different. And the first one was when I was fought in Kwajalein Atoll on the island of Allen Island, which was called Anabir by the Japanese. And we were to land a day ahead of the main assault to make a place for the artillery to shell Roy and Namur. Well, they didn't need it. And so as I battled, my first battle was less than 30 minutes, and we had 7 men killed and 3 men wounded. And as I looked at little Crisp, as he lay there in his blood, and I had just talked to him, he had been in the Marine Corps over a year, and he wasn't even 17 years old. And to see Mastel and green and black blood was just, I never get over it, even to this day, as seeing my first American blood spilled on a foreign soil. Now, that's the one. Now, the next one was totally different. The hatred that I had for the Japanese and what they had done on Guam and Wake Island and China and in Japan, we all hated them. Everybody hated the Japanese. And when I killed my first Jap, it was one of the most exciting things that I went through. It was more important than driving a new car or catching your first fish. Now I had accomplished what I was trained to do as a Marine, to kill the enemy. Now, the next one is a totally different one, and that was on Saipan, when my company commander asked me to take this patrol out. And we went out on the patrol, and one of the men was killed, 3 were wounded, and we accomplished our mission. We come back and reported in, and my thoughts was that, could I have studied harder? Could I have done something different to save his life and to keep those other guys from getting wounded? Well, you have to admit to yourself, you did the best you can do, and that's all that's expected of you. Some of us have to die, and as Marines, we are trained for the Corps to give our life for the Corps and for our country. And that's how all Marines feel. As we talked about that, when you see a Marine emblem or a hat and we say, Semper Fi, then he returns back to you, do or die, which means I'll take care of my equipment, you take care of yours, and there's nothing that we can't do. And then you shake hands together and look at each other and say, death before dishonor. Now that is the way it used to be said. Now they just say, do or die. But that was how we lived, and that's how the Marine Corps are trained, and we trained to love our country. In fact, in our song we sing, first to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We're proud to claim the title, United States Marine. Now the other one was, I won't go into all the details on that, as when I first went into a congregation of Japanese people that belonged to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And as I saw them there, the bitterness inside of me was so strong, I wanted to get up and walk out of there. But being a good Mormon boy, and I didn't drink and smoke or do any of the other things, I sit down at the back of the building, and the meeting progressed, and sitting on the stand was the guy that had been in the early morning priesthood meeting at 9 o'clock, Walter Teruya. And he looked more Indian than he did Japanese, because the Okinawans are different looking than the Japanese. A lot of people don't know that, but it's true. And then they introduced the sacrament to us, and what we call the sacrament, when we take the water or the bread and they pass it to us, and I thought, if that Jap kid passes me that bread, I'm going to get up and walk out of here. Well, a little guy from Layton, Utah, Elder Johnson, was a little soldier, and he passed me the bread. And then the next, I thought, well, if that Jap passes me the water, I'm going to get up and walk out of her. Well, he passed me the water. And so there I sat. I had gone through the sacrament, which was a very sacred thing in the LDS Church, and because we renew our covenants with our Father in heaven. And as I sit there, the first speaker was introduced to us, who was a Japanese boy who had been a member of the church for 2 years. And then he didn't do much for me. And then the next one, Elder Kyoshi Tsukiyama, stood up, and he bore his talk and his testimony of what he had to give up, not to become a member of the LDS Church, but just to become a Christian, that half his family were members of the church, and the other half were not. But his grandparents wouldn't even let him in the house because they considered him dead. And as a result, as I sit there listening to him talk, I had this craziest feeling that I ever had in my life come over me from my head, and as it just coming all through my body. And as it came down there, the thought hit me, who do you think you are, Gunnery Sergeant Renstrom? Jesus Christ forgave those who killed him, and they haven't killed you yet. And I thought, that probably, of my 4 stories, had more effect on my life than anything else. And then I turn around and go back on a mission to the Japanese people, and learned that they wanted the same things out of life as everybody else, to just have peace. Now, there you go. Now, that's more than you probably wanted, but...
It was, but it's all good. It's just amazing to listen to you talk. In the camera here. The hardest part for me of my work is probably seeing these veterans for the first and last time. It's rare that I can come back a second time like I'm doing now and revisit what I consider an old warrior. I just finished a film called An Old Warrior, and it follows me and a World War II Navy veteran through the schools in the Denver area, and it shows how slow he's moving today. He's very slow to move, but he still has that same fighting spirit to go into the schools. But Keith, I feel like I'm on a very reflective journey in my life right now, and most people don't know the behind the scenes story of what I go through. The personal side, Nancy knows, but
Okay.
but you know.
No. Grab my wrist.
Okay.
Now you're being held by a warrior. And this is what the Romans used to do after the battles, was hold their hand, and there's the hand that you got is your right hand. And that's the sword you fight with, and that's the sword you harm, you kill with. And as a result, Larry, I give you credit for all the patience and the time and the money that you have spent in talking to us veterans who have lived through some of the most trying things that you can imagine. I've been blown up twice. I've been wounded twice. I've left my blood on 2 of the islands of the Pacific, and so has other veterans. You've met them all, and they all have their stories to tell. Mm-hmm. So Larry, thank you from the bottom of my heart of being Larry Capello.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to, again, on camera, thank you for your service to our country and for your community. And I feel like a little kid at Christmas being here with you today. And
well,
you mean a lot. You mean more to me than you'll ever know.
I'm Santa Claus, and I just gave my Santa Claus suit to my 2 kids last night. But anyway, I want you to know I appreciate all that you've done. And Larry, you are 1 in a million to keep up with what you're doing, because what you'll do will live on for thousands of years. It'll be here for people to look back and see what World War II was, and what all the things that you've made and the videos that you've made, and the towers going down and interviewing those people, and the Jewish people, what they went through in the Holocaust, and all this type of thing is really the true love of our Father in heaven, Jesus Christ, that we can stand together in different faiths and still love the Lord. And I say, I want that to be said, so that's part of our saying goodbye. And
well, let me tell you something. You were history being made years ago. My work is history being told, and that's my goal, is to tell our stories to our kids, like I said. But just standing here with you, can you imagine when you were fighting on Iwo Jima, that over 60 years later I would come into your life and I would meet you, and when you were fighting back then, and you're my eyes and my ears to that doorway in the past, and you've told me your story. And my goal, I feel like a guardian of the stories. I take care of the stories, and then I bring them to our schools, and that's my goal. So, and with that being said, I've been serving my country through the lens of that camera for 10 years. That's great. My job.
And I commend you for it. And as a good Marine, I gotta salute you.
Oh, yes.
Now, you gotta salute too, Dad.
Okay.
Thumbs along the trousers, feet forming a 45-degree angle, knees straightened without stiffness, hips level and drawn back slightly, chest lifted, chin in. Now you're standing in the position of attention. Prepare to salute. Salute! 2. Welcome aboard.
Semper Fi.
Do or die.
Always faithful.
Death before dishonor.
I love you.
Well, we love you.
Okay.
There you got it. Now,
I
the
should-
real thing.